Okay, so we've got Mr. Gissing and Mr. Rai here today, and we've had what is a fantastic victory in the Court of Appeal. Because what's happened is that the historic injustice that adult dependent children of Gurkhas have been suffering since the win in 2008 has really been put right today. Because this Court of Appeal, and a very powerful Court of Appeal headed by the Master of the Rolls, has found that the historic injustice suffered by adult dependent children is a weighty matter to be considered by every decision maker when deciding whether an adult dependent child should settle in the UK with the veteran parent or parents. Now, this case has been fought long and hard, and we've got Raphael here who did a fantastic job representing our clients. Chris Jacobs just left it, also did a fantastic job. And they've worked hard at getting it over to the court that had the Gurkha veteran been allowed to settle at the same time as all other foreign and Commonwealth soldiers could have settled, i.e. before 1997. Then if we can show that the dependent children would have settled with them at that time, and that the kids then would have been minor children under the age of 18, the right of settlement will flow. So it's a great day for dependent children. It's a great day for Gurkhas, because it's one thing to have a right to settle, but people want to settle with their families, and being kept out of being able to do so has prevented veteran soldiers from settling here as well. I think it was Martin Luther King that once said, "Injustice anywhere threatens justice everywhere," and the injustice suffered by the dependent adult children did threaten the justice won by the veteran soldiers, and now that has been put straight, and we're all delighted about it. Thank you for coming down to court. Thank you for supporting your fellow brother Gurkha soldiers and their children. Thank you. Raphael, would you like to say a few words?
I just want to thank everyone at Howe & Co, and I want to thank all the veterans who worked so hard for this, because I think this shows the teamwork actually worked. We've worked for almost 2 years on setting this right. Gissing was a setback, but this has shown that teamwork can actually change the law. And again, I want to thank everyone who worked on this. Thank you.
Roshan, as someone who's a child of a former Gurkha veteran and as someone whose case has been decided positively today, how do you feel about today's judgment?
I'm very pleased today. It's a very good news for every adult Gurkha children who has been a victim of this injustice. In addition to the existence of family life and the emotional and financial support, we've got the added weight of the historic injustice, which is going to support our case. And it's a very good news for every adult Gurkha children today from this decision of the Court of Appeal. I'm very pleased. It's been a long struggle and a very good support from the team of solicitors and barristers at Howe & Co. I'm very thrilled, very excited.
Fantastic.
Mr. Howe, what does this actually mean for Gurkha adult dependent children? Can they apply now?
Well, they've always been able to apply, but now they can apply with greater confidence that they'll succeed in their application. Certain things have to be established first. You have to show that there is a family link between the veteran soldier and the children still in Nepal, no matter what age they are. So if they're living in the family home, if they're still dependent on their father for income, if they're in education and being supported by their parents in going through that education, those are all factors that will establish the family right in the first place. Once you can show that, the courts will then look at cases and say, right, well, if the parents had applied for settlements years ago alongside other foreign and Commonwealth soldiers who had the same rights, if a Gurkha soldier had had that right originally, would they have applied? And if the Gurkha soldier can convince the court, there's no reason why he shouldn't be able to do so, that he would have applied, then the court will say, well, but for that injustice, that inability to apply historically, but for that, would the children then have also applied to come to the UK? And would those children have been minor children at the time? And if those tests are satisfied, as I think they will be, then the Court of Appeal here has given a clear indication that the exercise of discretion should be in favour of those dependent children. So it's a magnificent and significant decision.
मेरो नाम सकल बहादुर राई, पल्टन 7GR, आर्मी नम्बर 2107 निदान छु र मैले 2008 मा गोर्खालीहरुले रिसेटल पाउने इजाजत प्राप्त हामीले गर्न सकियो र अहिलेको यो जजको डिसिसनले मेरो बच्चाहरूले पनि आउने अवसर प्राप्त गरेको हुनाले म यो डिसिसन गरेको खण्डमा चाहिँ म धेरै खुसी छु र आभार व्यक्त गर्न चाहन्छु। धन्यवाद।
The decision today is very important. It's important not only for the dependent children and the Gurkha adults themselves and the Gurkha veterans, but also it's politically important because you've got to remember the whole range of battles that have been going on behalf of Gurkhas here for a number of years to get justice for people who have served and fought in this country, people who have lost 50 to 60,000 of their own members in the various wars over the 200 years that they've been part of the British Army and continue to be. I mean, today we won a case on behalf of Mr. Rai, whose two sons are serving in the British Army. His son served in Iraq and Afghanistan. The continuation through the generations of Gurkhas, men, serving for Queen and country is almost unbreakable. And for 200 years there's been significant and courageous service by Gurkhas. Today what we've really seen is the final jigsaw piece being put into place to right the injustice that Gurkhas have suffered. We'll remember that before 2004 Gurkhas weren't able to settle in the UK after being discharged, albeit that other foreign and Commonwealth soldiers had a discretionary right to do so. That was put right in 2004 for those soldiers who retired after 1st of July 1997, but the pre-97 Gurkhas were still left out in the limb. And we at Howe & Co brought a case and fought it hard in the High Court, which was successful in front of Mr. Justice Paik back in September 2008. That allowed Gurkha veterans with 4 years service essentially a right to settle in the UK, but it still left the position of their children vulnerable. And what we did see was that minor children were being allowed to settle with the Gurkha veteran and wives were being allowed to settle, but adult dependent children were finding it hard to succeed. This case has put that right, because what this Court of Appeal has decided is that Gurkha adult dependent children who would have settled in the UK but for the fact that their parents weren't allowed to settle on discharge prior to 1997 should now be allowed to settle on the basis that that is a significant factor to be taken into account. The courts below this Court of Appeal to date have given that little weight, that historic injustice little weight in balancing the proportionality of whether to allow a dependent adult to settle here or not. This court has said that the proportionality test should weigh the historic injustice more heavily than it has been weighed so far. And this is a politically important decision, because we remember that back in 2008 it was the Labour government that was resisting Gurkhas the right to settle here. And the current coalition leaders, David Cameron and Nick Clegg, were fine and firm supporters of the Gurkhas' right to settle and came out publicly to say so. But since coming into government they've been silent on the issue of the dependent children. And the truth of it is that Gurkhas who wished to settle here, who had the right to settle here, were then torn between coming here and exercising their right and leaving their children in Nepal. No family wants to do that. The purpose of this type of policy should not be to split families and split families of loyal, deserving soldiers. This judgment has put that right. We're delighted about it, and we hope that it rings from the mountaintops in Nepal, rings from the top of the hills in Pokhara and around Kathmandu. Thank you.